Hey, what's up guys, Chris here, back in No Man's Sky, and today I'm going to bring you yet another guide. This time around it's going to be all about how to farm and tame animals, about how to find the recipes for their specific bait, and everything else in between. So let's jump right in, and of course a thumbs up on this video would also be super appreciated. Now as you can see, we are on this very beautiful lush planet, and this is the perfect place because we have a bunch of animals to test all of our theories up. So let's begin, of course, with the basics, and the basics here are actually really simple. Once you start the game up, at some point you might come around one of these. These are the creature pallets, or the most basic of bait. They are really cheap to build, only 10 carbon, that is the entire cost. And once you create something like this, you can just go over here in the utilities menu, creature bait, throw one down, and every single creature in a big radius will flock onto it. But this is not everything to it. In fact, there are actually very advanced baits that will further let you tame the creature and even ride it. In this case, even though I gave them the bait itself, the pallet, they won't let me take anything from them, they won't let me ride them, they will just follow me. So this is the basic principle. In order to find the exact bait that you need in order to ride any of these creatures and tame them, what you need to do is to bring up the scanner and pretty much scan them, just like this. Once you do that, under the bait section of the screen you can see that a new item is listed, which is called, in this case, sweetened compost. And of course there was even a pop-up on the right corner of the screen that indicated that we just learned a new recipe. And this is basically how you learn new recipes for each of these baits. You essentially have to find these new creatures, scan them, and they will sometimes reward you with a brand new recipe. But where do you go to find its components and its requirements? Well, here is where the catalog comes into play, specifically the cooking product section of it. And in this case, I've already discovered a number of species that rewarded me some of these new herbivore baits. And in this case, the sweetened compost is what was listed, but of course there's a ton more. The sweetened compost is actually a doubled advanced herbivore bait, and the other ones before it are actually a little bit more simplistic. So let's just break all of these down. In this case, the sweetened compost requires faecium, over which I'll go in just a bit, as well as other bait types. So it actually has a double requirement. I can go over any other bait type. In this case, I'll just pick up the scented herbs, since this is so easy to build. Again, scented herbs, just like any other bait type, can be found by scanning the creature, and if you're lucky, it's going to list this under its bait section. For every single herbivore bait in the game, there's going to be only two requirements. Faecium as the main requirement. Don't ask why poop is required to build this. The second one is going to be something at random. In this case, harvestable plants. But of course, harvestable plants are pretty diverse, there's a bunch of them, but how do you find these brand new harvestable plants? Well, here is where your scanner again comes into play, and once you check out your surroundings, you will always find something like, for example, impulse bean. This is of course another type of harvestable plant. But there's more than that, so just scan your surroundings and you will always find something. There is pulpy roots in this case, we're gonna check that in just a bit. And there's a ton more on top of that, including of course even something like maize or corn or whatever. So it all depends on the planet. Now that was the more complicated part. Going back to the more simple part, as you can see, I've provided these animals with some bait, and they have actually started pooping on the ground. And this is actually how you get the faecium. Once they poop, you can just take all of this up, and you only need one pallet in order to bait an entire group of creatures. And once you do that, eventually they will drop a ton of faecium on the ground, and just one run of this will pretty much give you at least 100 faecium, which eventually will last you for the entire game. Like just this quick run over here gave me 141, which is more than I need. So let's actually go over the rest. Let's go ahead and find one of these brand new plants. For example, let's go over that impulse beam over there, and eventually the pulpy roots as well, to see exactly what we can craft out of it. This is the impulse bean. You can just extract it really easily. It can reward you anywhere from 5, 10, maybe even 15 beans, or whatever else is that you're getting. Also, let's go over some of the pulpy roots. These seem to be the only two specimens here on this planet. Everything else I was able to find on different planets, so again, it's kind of random. You kind of have to pay close attention to your surroundings and explore a little bit until you find them. Now also let's go on to the next section, and this is all about the food processor. So the food processor is again unlocked on the Nexus in the appropriate technology menu or on your base, but of course on the Nexus it's really fast. If you want to unlock this on your base, you're going to need to have the blueprint analyzer. So I already built mine, I researched it, it's really inexpensive. So what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to showcase you some of the recipes in this game. So in this case we need to build some sweetened compost. So to do that, of course, we first need faecium. This is the base material. You can further refine this, but not for the purpose of this video. And then some plants, let's say some pulpy roots. And as you can see, it already lists what I can build with it, in this case enzyme fluids. But of course I can use any other plant that I find out there. For example, let's say you find some peas, you can use this in order to craft some scented herbs. Typically you should be able to build any bait for a specific planet by simply collecting resources from that planet, but sometimes it might not be the case, so you might have to do a little bit of exploration. In any case, our nutrition processor is now done, and this has created enzyme fluids. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pulpy roots out and put the enzyme fluids back over here with the actual faecium, and this is how I can create the sweetened compost. That is why I said the sweetened compost is the only one that requires double refining, as in you first have to create a herbivore bait and then re-refine it with even more faecium in order to get this. And let's go back to this menu again and throw some sweetened compost, and as you can see they are coming back pretty much running like mad. So once that is done, you will start seeing that you can mount them now and also collect milk. I actually suggest you guys collecting milk or whatever they have, maybe eggs, maybe whatever that may be, because eventually they will let you ride them again. So just wait a little bit and there you go. Mount and done. There it is. That is how you do it. You pretty much shoot two birds with one stone. You also collect whatever they have, as well as later on mounting them. And this pretty much works for every creature in the game. It can be a herbivore, it can be a carnivore. The only exception is with anomalous creatures on, let's say, anomalous planets, as well as with birds. Not only do they not list anything under their bait, but they are also unrideable. Now, if you followed everything that I've just told you, you probably got the basics, case in which we should start going into something a little bit more complex. And here is where some of the new structures or tech comes into play. Specifically, of course, the livestock unit and the automated feeder, and both of these can be found into the farming section. In the tech section of this, you just go into specialists and then you will have farming, and here they are. Both of these of course require sources of energy to work. So here is how everything works. It's actually really easy. The livestock unit, you don't really have to pay much attention to it. It pretty much does its own thing. The automated feeder is what is important, because you will need a source over here to bait creatures in, essentially the bait I was talking about. So in order to do that, you will need to craft everything I just told you of. So let's take this creature here, for example. This one likes sweetened compost. In this case, I'm going to put in the compost, and as you can see, it's already doing its thing, as in it's just throwing in some of that. It even attracted some of these creatures. So one of the creatures already says that it was tamed, and look at that, it's also getting milked. You can set one of these platforms and even this is going to suffice. It will bring you everything that you need. You can set up basically a whole restaurant chain if you know what you're doing. Like just set up one of these outside of your base, outside of your farm, whatever it is, and it will automatically feed creatures, tame them, and then extract whatever there is that they have. In this case it was milk, but it can be something else, such as eggs or certain types of fluids or all that kind of stuff that you normally use in cooking. And everybody's happy, you're happy, the creatures are happy. You can just leave it here, do its thing, come in, for example, later, and you will have everything that you need. But this is basically it. This is the whole process. This is how you tame creatures. This is how you find out what type of bait they want. And of course, this is how you can automate everything. And trust me when I see this, automating everything in here is actually so much fun. It's so much better, and it all pays up in the end. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure you leave a thumbs up on it as well, as that would be definitely very helpful. Also subscribe for more and activate the notification bell, and I will see you guys in a bit.